Harry, are you there?
Drew, I'm here.
Harry is the voice you hear at the beginning of the show. Trudy, Mark, and Brandon.
Hey.
And Harry and I used to work at Competitors back in the Boston days.
Oh.
And we hadn't talked in quite a while, but we got hooked up because I heard the voice on Buzz Knight's podcast.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I said, where'd you get that? Who's that? He says, that's Harry. I was like, that's Harry? So anyway, Harry and I start talking, and the next thing you know, Harry's putting out this podcast of, I mean, this is, you can listen to, Mark and Brandon, did you guys listen to some of it?
I'm all caught up, yep. I'm all caught up. Listen to all first 3 episodes are out, right, Harry?
Yeah, 3 and 4 drops tomorrow, and I'll get you guys more. I'll keep you updated. Hopefully you'll have me back. So.
Tons of questions already, so.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Listen, it's great to see everybody. You know, honestly, you know, Brandon and Mark and Trudy, I follow you guys. So it's neat to be able to see everyone's face. And by the way, not to be a victim, not to like have my own like Corey Feldman segment on your YouTube page or any of that shit. Be kind.
No, is he really a victim now? I think he likes it.
No, I don't think so. It makes for a good podcast, though. I have to say.
Get some clicks.
This is a scam that goes from 1999 to 2022. And as I mentioned, you met her. She's just off of almost being Miss Texas. She was a pageant, very successful. She finished ahead of Eva Longoria. And how long after that was it when you met her, Harry?
I actually met her in the spring of 2001. So she was in that pageant, I want to say in 2000, maybe 1999 or 2000.
Mm-hmm.
But she had done a bunch of them. She was a pageant girl from the time, she was 10 or 11 years old or something. Her mother stuck her in those pageants and she did them, through, actually, I think she did some afterwards as well. I think she did some Mrs. California type pageants as well.
That's when I get really suspicious when they want to be Mrs. something, because it's like, wait a second, you're already married and stuff. What? Just desperate to be in pageants, but
attention.
We could cut her some slack. Hey, why don't we put a picture of Rachel up, Brandon? You get those pictures I sent?
Yeah, well,
there she is. That's a good picture of her. And Harry, you were transfixed by Rachel. She's quite attractive and also seems to be quite smart.
Listen, she presented magnificently. The bottom line, with anyone that we get involved with, whoever we meet, there's some sort of an attraction. I don't give a shit if you're a man or a woman. When you meet somebody that you connect with, there's some sort of an attraction there. I don't mean, I met Drew and I had the hots for Drew. It was like, you're a good dude. Like, he's a baseball fan. Listen, I was going through the garage last week. I got a Springsteen bootleg from the Centrum in Worcester in 1987 that has your handwriting on it that I still owe you. So, you know what I mean?
That's a good bootleg, by the way. That's a damn good bootleg.
Yeah. We find stuff about each other. And for me with her, it was like, she's hot. She's, I'm way out over my skis, and she's just a beautiful, beautiful woman. And I thought, this is someone I want to connect with.
Harry, did you meet her at a gentleman's club? Is that where you met?
I did not, but she's got that in her background. She was working as a dancer. She did have a career as an escort, a hooker, whatever I don't know if there's a politically correct way to say it. She was
whore.
Mark said, whore.
Well, you guys can say it.
No, Mark, I'm joking.
Hey, Mark, did you hear that? I can't remember what Harry's told me personally and what's on the podcast. Did you suspect that?
No, I think it was in episode 3 you talked about how, pretty much what you just said about how she was an escort. To which my thought was, well, did you know that? And would seem to be the first big red flag to me.
Yeah, listen, I was 20 plus years ago. Yeah. I was, 35 years old. I had just moved here across the country from Boston. First business trip was to Houston, and I thought, what the fuck? I'm gonna, who am I to, as I said, who am I to deny a young college girl some expense money? And maybe it should have been a red flag, but listen, immediately after that, she gave me her real name. I got her phone number, and there was never, and I saw her a bunch, there was never the exchange of legal tender after that. So should it have been a red flag, Mark? Absolutely. But the truth is that I wanted to believe the good in her. She's really presents very well and it's very beautiful. And she's smart, by the way.
Yeah.
And in order to carry out what she did, she'd have to be smart.
Well, to that point, okay, so she says she's a lawyer. She says she's a pilot. Did you ever ask her, like, well, what case are you working on? And did she throw out legalese? Or did you ask her about a flight and what happened? I mean, were there all those technical terms? Did she know those?
There were a couple things that happened. First of all, the lawyer part of it and the pilot part of it were separate. With me, she only presented that she was a lawyer. So in 2012 or whenever we reconnected, she said she was going to law school, wanted to be a lawyer. 5 years later, she sent me a message saying that she had passed the bar and she was working for, this father-in-law that was never really a father-in-law. So she laid these little breadcrumbs out. So when I connected with her in 2021, when we really became a couple, I said, what are you working on? She said, well, I'm primarily doing real estate law. And then she drops the Kristen Smart thing in my lap.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that. For those of you that don't know it, that's this, Paul Flores, this piece of shit, murdered Kristen Smart, a Cal Poly student in San Luis Obispo. And she claimed that the district attorney in San Luis Obispo, who, by the way, is still the DA, Dan Dow, invited her to sit second chair on that case. Wow. No criminal law experience. She just said, they like what they see and they're going to let me do that. And I fell for that. I didn't say, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. How does that happen? Yeah. I was so enamored with her that I thought, what a great opportunity. Go ahead and take it.
Yeah. So Harry, you were just wildly attracted to her. I mean, the first time you met her, she's an escort, but you were wildly attracted to her. You get her phone number. You think, wow, this is like Julia Roberts and Richard Gere and what's the movie?
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. It's like a Pretty Woman thing or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no question that that's what it was like. And it had kind of slipped my mind because time had passed between, 2001 and when we reconnected, in 2012. I just thought, she's working, she's going to school. She had started the whole thought that, she was in nursing school with me. So she laid the groundwork about law school. But those were all little things. She wasn't practicing law at that point. She didn't have her RN's license. It was almost like she was setting this story up to pull me in later down the road. It's really convoluted and complex in a way.
No, I've seen watched the show Catfish a lot, and I've seen a lot of catfish stories. And there's a great one on Netflix this month. There's another one on Hulu, I think. These stories are fascinating. A lot of the catfish stories typically, though, are people who are, I think they like fucking with people. They probably love the attention too, but in Rachel's case, this is, and the cancer and everything, it's her really demanding the attention of multiple men, not just you. She just loved attention. Isn't that what she needs?
Since her father was in a horrific refinery explosion in 2000, I'm sorry, God, I don't know when she was 9 years old.
Is it true?
I was going to say, yeah. Are we certain about that?
Do we know?
Is that for real?
That's for real. Okay. Yeah. I've got a relationship now with Rachel's sister. Okay. She and I talk, once
the one she killed?
So. No, it's friendship.
Oh, friendship. No, the one she killed, the sister she killed?
Oh, yeah, the sister she killed, yeah.
Wait, how did she kill her sister off, Harry?
Yeah. So at any rate, that story is confirmed. But since then, Rachel has been craving the attention of men nonstop. It wasn't just me. It was all these other men that she had along the way. Listen, the pregnancy story you heard about, I've got 3 other dudes that this happened to.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. She sent a, what's the gram called with the little baby in it? What's it? Sonogram. Yeah. She sent a sonogram of twins, not to you, but to another guy that you found out about. So this guy thought he was the father of twins with her?
Twice. There are 2 of these stories. One guy in 2017, a guy who's from Houston that she connected with on Facebook. By the way, I'm still connected to her at this point as she's doing this with this guy. His name is Mike. I'm going to have him on my podcast at some point. But she sent him a picture of twins and then love bombed him, did the whole thing. But he was smart enough to put that picture into Google Lens and it spit back an image of twins from New Jersey that were very unique because I think the woman was impregnated two separate. There was something strange. I don't know the medical terminology, but there was something unique about those twins, and that's what spit back out. And as soon as he found that information about that image, he bounced the fuck out of there.
Wow.
But there was another guy when Rachel graduated high school, her high school boyfriend, that Rachel took a picture of an ultrasound. It belonged to her sister, Sherry. She ripped the top of the ultrasound off and handed it to her high school boyfriend, and it was her sister's twins. Started a huge issue between, as you can imagine, between Rachel and her family. So I'm one of, 3, probably 4 guys that this has happened to.
Yeah, you didn't get a sonogram of twins. You just got a sonogram of one baby, correct?
Yeah, and it had her name on it. It had the birth date is the day after her birthday. She did all the math. By the way, during that time, Drew, she and I were sharing locations. So when she said she was going to the hospital to see her OB to get the confirmation on the test and her cancer screening, I watched her location. I watched her go to the Templeton Twin Cities Hospital in Templeton, California, just north of Atascadero. I saw all this, and I'm thinking, how did she make this up? She literally must have sat outside the hospital with her location services on just to fuck with me.
Is that what you think she did? I mean, she just went to the hospital and sat there, or did she possibly work there or do something there?
I saw her go in. She quite possibly could have been doing some work there, but the timing was such that I saw her go in. I was nervous about having the baby and about the cancer screening. So I was kind of watching my phone, in this day and age, we can see this shit live. So I'm watching her walk in. She walks out. She goes back to her car. She says, I have one more appointment to go to. It was the cancer doctor, the oncologist. And I saw her leave her car, was there for an hour. I checked back in. She came back out. Bam, same day. I have cancer and we're pregnant.
Oh, my God.
And, Harry, were you excited to have a baby with her?
Listen, I was 56 years old. I had never reproduced. I was shocked as shit. But at the same time, I thought, my testosterone was like 1100 and her tubes had been tied years ago. I thought there's no way, like testosterone at a high level is supposed to be male birth control. Your tubes get tied. I understand that they can, there are anomalies that happen here. And I thought maybe this is just some message that somehow this was supposed to happen for us. Was I happy? Yeah, I was really happy.
Yeah, I wasn't putting it down or anything. I thought, maybe you probably were happy because you wanted to be with her. You absolutely wanted to be with her at this point, correct?
Her more than anything in the world. And when I found out she was pregnant and when I found out she had cancer, like in the same day, like as a man, like what do you do in that spot? I had been absent. I had 2 shitty marriages I had been absent from. I had fucked up one relationship after another my entire life. I was typical male, not present in relationships. And all of a sudden now this girl who I've always had it for has cancer and is pregnant with my baby. And I find that out the same day. She had me hook, line, and sinker.
Harry, so you're tracking her on the phone. Where did you live compared to where she lived? I mean, were you not in the nearby?
I'm in Vegas. I'm 7 hours away from Atascadero, California.
So how often did you guys see each other?
So when I found out that she was pregnant, I literally made a phone call and had one of the neighbor's kids come over the next day and made arrangements for him to stay with my dog. And I left. I moved to Atascadero. Sure. I moved into a hotel, a walk from her house.
Wow.
I stopped my entire life down. My entire life. I thought, I wasn't in 100%. I was in 1,000%.
And you were working from that location in Atascadero. You could work from home, so it wasn't that big a problem, correct?
Post-COVID, I've got a laptop, I've got an iPad, we got Zoom, we've got, Google Meet, we got whatever we need to work from wherever we are these days. And that's what I did. I stayed in this hotel. I was a walk from her house.
And at this time, I think, and this is why you have to listen to the podcast to really get the full effect. I mean, these things just start coming at you so fast. All these lies, it's just mind-boggling. She was married at this time, correct?
That's the fucking kick in the balls. She's married for 20 years at this point to a guy, by the way, that I think had been abusing her and had been this awful piece of garbage, who turns out did nothing more than stand by a woman he thought was loyal to her.
Did he? So he had no idea that you existed, that you were in fact staying very, very close to her at this point, and she was spending the night at your place.
She would tell her husband and her family, well, I'm a visiting nurse, so I go down to Santa Barbara to one of the hospitals down there, and I spend the night. I work a night shift, and then I come back home. Meanwhile, I could walk to her house from the hotel. You could go to Google Maps and look at this. I'm at the Home 2 Suites at Del Rio Road, right across 101. She lived across the street. I literally was a 6-minute walk.
So now that you're nearby her, did you accompany her to doctor's appointments? Never crossed your mind?
She wouldn't let me go. I'm private about that. I don't want you to go. I'll keep you posted on everything. But that was one of her things almost from the beginning, Mark, was that she had said to me, listen, I keep everything private. I keep it close to the vest. I hope you understand that. I'll inform you. I'll take diligent notes. I'll do whatever you want. But it drove me crazy. And there were red flags when I look at it now. Part of me doing this, I mean, I'm embarrassed as shit to tell this story.
I don't think you should be, though. I mean, it's a pretty wild.
No, it's
story.
good. It's good to get it out there too. I think when there's a lot of people who are experiencing the same thing. I mean, not the same thing, but something like it. I was just sitting here thinking, God, the sex must have been fantastic.
Here's the thing. I've tried really hard. Trudy, you're going to appreciate this. I've tried really hard to not disparage her, to speak about her in a disparaging way as a woman. We're a group of 3 dudes sitting around here talking, and Trudy, I don't want to be,
Well, I wasn't disparaging her. I was just saying,
disrespect her. Listen, it was clear to me after the first time we were together that she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't. This is not us sitting around smoking cigars and having guy talk. I've tried really carefully to not be that guy.
Okay, there was chemistry.
There was unbelievable chemistry. It was out of control, and there was a ton of passion, between us. And I feel like I'm going to regret saying this. I'm going to regret saying it, but I have a friend who has a saying that's completely misogynistic, but is so fucking true. And he says, in the history of the world, the only thing that is undefeated is pussy.
Oh, no doubt.
No, you don't need to regret that.
Maybe a roofie and a drink, though. I mean,
that's true. Yes.
It's all tied together.
A roofie and a drink have defeated pussy from time to time. Unfortunately.
Lots lately.
Not fair, but
yeah, it's true.
So how many episodes is the podcast going to be? Because the first 3 you throw out so much information. I'm like, this is going to be a 55-part podcast.
You know what's funny, Mark, is the first time my first go around with it, episodes 1 through 4 were actually like an episode and a half. And then I let people listen to it and they're like, no way, there's just too much information. So first season's 12 episodes. It's done. It was done in June. By the way, episode 4 is Thursday, but episodes 5 through 12 are crazy. And the emotion, like the shit that you hear about, like what she did some things that were unthinkable. She pretended to be her own daughter when she communicated with me from the hospital. She pretended to have coded a handful of different times. Like the shit she did. I slept with a pillow phone under my pillow for a year and a half, thinking she was in the hospital, when the entire time she was living her life. She was flying around the country.
Wow.
Probably with other men and taking, being a soccer mom, being an Uber mom, pretending to, she had another lie going with women at work, that she was a pilot and she was a trauma nurse. It's like the lies were everywhere.
I mean, at some point, you just kind of expect that all of these people who've been lied to are just going to circle this person and stone them to death or something. But is there a coming together of the people now that you're unraveling this and it's getting out there, or are people just kind of distancing themselves from the whole thing?
Like a survivors group.
When I first started this, and I shared it with Drew. And Drew, you're the only person I really shared this concept of telling the story. You said to me, once you start telling the story, people are going to start coming out of the woodwork. And I said, you're full of shit. No one's going to want to tell this story. I know that you're a fan of this stuff. And your words have been true. Her sister and I have a relationship. Rachel doesn't have a relationship there. There are women that she works with at the airport that she has lied to and deceived that I have a relationship with. The guy that she sent the ultrasound of the twins, I have a relationship with. I got a relationship with one of her daughters, with her husband. You were absolutely right. People are coming out of the woodwork now. And I think after the first season is done, even more will come out.
What about Dateline and ABC's 2020? I mean, are they going to come? Have they pitched you on anything?
I would entertain anything. You know, Billy Bush's name, I don't know how closely you looked at it, Trudy, but Billy's name is on the top of this podcast. It's from executive producer Billy Bush. Billy and I have got a 30-year relationship. And I think, you know, I haven't said that to him. I haven't said, can we send this? Can we have someone, you know, from Dateline, from anywhere look at this? But I would imagine that at some point as it catches on, there'll be the opportunity to do that and to share this story.
That sounds like a good story.
Well,
And Billy Bush knows her. Billy Bush has met Rachel.
Oh, really?
Wow.
We were in Billy's house, you know, right before Rachel and I became a couple. Billy turned 50, and I was down there for his birthday party, and I invited Rachel for dinner the night before, and we hung out, had dinner, went back to the house, smoked cigars, and shot the shit, and she was in that house. When I told Billy about the story, he said, "Wait a minute," he said, "I'm a part of this story, aren't I?" I said, "Yeah, on a couple levels, she was in your house, number one. And number two, Billy played a role trying to allegedly rescue Rachel, not allegedly. Billy played a role. Rachel was allegedly stuck in Mexico at one point. and Billy tried to come to her rescue. And that was the first real red flag for me was
Yeah, she wasn't in Mexico. Billy was trying to rescue her from someplace. She claimed she was stuck, but she wasn't really stuck there. So when Billy came through on the rescue, there was no Rachel, correct?
There was no Rachel, and Billy said, "Listen, I know the two guys that own that resort. It's Moon Palace in Cancun." And he said, "I talked to one of them, and he said your girl checked out 2 weeks ago."
I'm going there in February, by the way. I already have I have my reservation for the Moon Palace in Cancun. Tell Billy to hook me up.
It's got to be a nice place.
It's a very nice place.
Billy hangs there. Wow.
I did want to ask you, because the big question, and I'm sure that's probably the question that hangs over the whole podcast, is why the fuck did she do this? And I know you probably paid for some things. Do you think it was about the money? Do you think it's attention? Do you think she liked going to Billy Bush's house? The simple things like that.
It was all about attention. I have a text message that pained me to release, and I put this in one of the social media videos. But when she was sucking up to her husband, trying to get him to take her back after she got caught, she said to him, "I lied to Harry about cancer for attention." I gave her some money, but it was, you know, you think about money that's exchanged between a couple over a couple of years. It was a few $1,000s. It was negligible. It was not a big deal. But she has my engagement ring. I did stop my entire world and stay in a hotel for 3 months, which wasn't cheap. There is what they call in California a law called theft by trick or theft by deception, and there's a penal code for it, and I could pursue legal charges against her. I have not discounted that, but I want to see how this is going to play out. She's also lied in open court. I saw her, and I'll get into this at one point, but I saw her in August for the first time since I thought she was going into the hospital, and she couldn't fucking look at me.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She was in open court, though, so have charges, I didn't get to hear any of this. Have charges been filed against her by anyone else?
There are no charges against her, but what happened was there's a case involving her husband. By the way, he's still her husband.
Oh, no.
And what Mark knows this and Drew knows this, Trudy, but Rachel's still married to the guy she was married to. There's a divorce case pending, but during the time that this was wrapping up and I found out and she was exposed, there was another man that she was seeing at the same time. So there were three of us. It was me thinking she was in the hospital, dying. It was her husband, Mark, thinking I'm just the husband. And there's a guy at the airport, the San Luis Obispo County Airport, by the name of Russ, and she's carrying on with him at the same time. So she's got three of us going at the same. She's like a modern day succubus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's just looking for attention anywhere she can get it. And by the way, she's now living with that guy Russ. But there's an issue between Mark, Rachel's still husband, and Mark, and I had evidence that helped Mark. So I volunteered to go to court. So when I went to court, I got to see her face to face.
Wow.
And listen, I'm calm and cool generally. There's very little that causes me to have my blood pressure or heart rate raised. And when I walked into the courtroom and saw her, my watch went off. It was like, my heart rate went up to like, you know what I mean? I'm normally, unflappable. Nothing does anything to me that way. And it was unnerving to actually have to sit in court and look at her. But then I started to get angry because she denied the existence of a relationship when they asked me why I was there and who I was to her. And I was prepared. I wore an open shirt because I was prepared to say, let her deny a relationship, right? Fuck you.
Wow.
Fuck you.
Oh, wow. We're looking at a tattoo.
Yeah, you're looking at a tattoo. For those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, go to the Drew Lane Show on YouTube and look at the tattoo. It's on our social media too. I put that on my chest. By the way, I decided to do that the day I found out she was pregnant.
Sure.
And the day I found out she had cancer.
Well,
I thought,
she admitted that the cancer was for attention. I assume that's the same reason she pretended to be pregnant. I mean, it was all just plain old attention.
Never found out why she lied about pregnancy, but I can only imagine that it was part and parcel to, I'm seeking attention.
I kept
Whatever
asking.
way she could. She sought my attention.
Wow.
Even after she was caught, and I found out she had been lying. She led me to believe that there were other things, and I don't want to get into that at this moment. Things are hanging at the balance, if you will.
Can you answer this? When you did find out, did you confront her right away, or did you start messing with her a little bit to see what you could compile?
When I found out, I want to say this the right way. I found out that her husband, according to her, had been abusing her 10, 12 years ago. I'm a 25-year martial arts guy. And I'm a protector, by nature. I'm just a motherfucker by nature in that way. And she, when I found out that he was abusing her the first time around, she had to talk me out of not going there because I literally wanted to pull him apart. I thought, I'm going to fucking take care of business. Don't worry about it. He won't ever touch you again. And then when I found out that she had been scamming me, I ended up getting a phone call from her husband. And when he called me, I didn't take the call. And then I called him back and I said, hey, Mark, this is, Harry. And he said, how are you? I understand you know my wife. And I said, I don't know who the fuck you think you're calling, but you're lucky you're still alive. You're lucky I don't fucking track you down and kill you. I know what you did to her, you fucking piece of shit. Who the fuck do you think you are? And she's not your wife. And he said, I'm not looking for any trouble. And I said, well, what do you want? And he said, do you know who she is? What is she to you? And I said, she's my fiance. He said, fiance?
Oh, my God.
She's my wife. I said, she's been your wife since 2012, motherfucker.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Why are you calling me? And he said, when is the last time you saw her? And I said, well, May 5th, 2022. This, by the way, is December 20th, 2023, 2 years later.
Yeah.
18 months later. And I said, I saw her a year and a half ago. She's in the hospital with cancer.
Oh, God.
Well, I'm not looking for any trouble. He said, hold on a second. And he said, look at your phone. And I look at my phone, and it's a Ring camera video. and it's her the night before walking into her fucking house.
Whoa.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Well, on Monday night, Harry and I were talking about doing this, and I kept asking Harry about, okay, did she get money for this? Did she get money for this? And I kept thinking, wait, there's got to be more money exchanged here, and it was like, what is going on? It is. And a lot of these catfish stories, which I've seen so many of them, a lot of them are not about money. I mean, there's usually money somewhere, maybe just a little bit here, a little bit there, or one thing comes up and they know they can come to that person. But really, it's attention in a lot of these stories. And I don't want to give the whole story away. There's so much more to it, and it's really difficult to even absorb the story or tell the story because there's so much bullshit involved. And then when you get to the bottom of the truth, but check out the podcast, The Rachel Cancer Scam. It's on iTunes. It's on any of the formats you want to listen to. And if you love true crime, and I know we have a lot of people who like true crime, it's a crazy, crazy story. And I don't really know where it's going to end because there are a lot of episodes to come. But
Well, it better end with you getting that ring back. I'll tell you that much. Fuck that.
Harry, what's the ring worth?
The ring's probably worth a little less than 10 grand, I think.
That's plenty.
Still.
I'd still want it back.
Hotel expense. There's all this stuff. When you look at like what it cost me financially, I really don't look at the financial cost. I look more at the emotional cost because, it destroyed me. I had never been in a relationship 1,000% in my life. So the cost is one thing, but what it did to my heart was like, to me, that's unforgivable. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm telling this story. Like, fuck you for breaking my heart. And by the way, what she did to me, she did to everyone else in her life.
No,
She's got a daughter that doesn't talk to her now. By the way, she named her Trudy and Brandon. You guys haven't heard this yet, but she named her daughter, her first daughter, Madison. That was Rachel's stripper and hooker name when I met her.
Oh.
Wow, that's pretty weird.
Wow.
I refer to her daughter as the daughter formerly known as Madison. She changed her name. She had money, by the way, to pay for the name change.
Oh, man, what a mess. Wow. All right, the Rachel Cancer Scam on all the platforms. Harry, thanks so much for the time. We'll be talking.
I love you guys. Thank you. And I'll continue to watch your show.
Thanks,
Either way,
Harry.
I love you,
buddy. Good to talk to you, Harry.
What a wild
See
story,
ya.
man. I got to tell you, now you mentioned Dateline 2020. This is like multi-part Netflix.
It's
multi-part Netflix.
It's a real. It's tough to. I mean, unraveling it is just insane, and more things as he goes on. Of course, and now it's out there. It's on TikTok. He was getting. I think he had like 150,000 TikToks, views and various things. And it started out, Harry wasn't on TikTok. He would get 8 views, 10 views, 12 views. And of course, it starts multiplying. And then, you start hearing from people too, like, wait, are you talking about this person?
Sure.
And I know her. And yeah, she used to pull this at work or whatever. I mean, everyone in her world has something that they could call foul on.
Yeah, she's
Some bigger than others.
Pretty too, so that
She
helps.
is.
I have to admire the energy that it takes. Wow.
I know, man. I've said that all the time about catfishers and scammers. Like,
God.
it's just a lot of work.
Yeah, that Sweet Bobby thing,
That was a lot of work.
That was so much work. This is a girl who thinks she's in love with this guy who's in witness protection in America, which sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's actually her cousin, who is a female, pretending to be her male lover.
And that cousin had 60 different accounts. Like, I mean, I have different accounts for the shows we work on, like Charlie and ML and this show. And I'm like, I can't keep it straight when I'm posting certain things. I could imagine constantly having these live conversations and switching from account to account and remembering who's who. That's just nuts.
Remember the part where she had to keep the phone on, keep the line open all night long for this person? So this other person who's not this guy, but is her cousin, is doing this. She's taking up all of these hours and hours. It's just, why?
It's one of these things, too, when you hear these stories and you're like, well, how did you not know? How did you not know? How did you not know? It's like, yeah, no, it's because we're watching it in an hour and a half as opposed to spread out over years and years. You don't want to question it, man. If it's going good, why would you question it? I'm gonna start Googling my wife, make sure she is. I don't know.
No, it destroys the whole thing.
Now that I know you have her number, my number, her number, or my name.
I think a lot of times there's a red flag that's big enough to destroy everything, I think a lot of people go, I don't really want to see that red flag,
That's
or because
suspicious,
that's going to knock everything out, and I'm
Sucks.
crazy about this person.
That sucks.
But yeah,
for Harry,
again,
man.
the Rachel Cancer scam on all platforms.